Have you ever looked at your JavaScript and thought, man, I'm writing the same clumsy checks over and over again? Well, if you're ready to clean up that code, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to add 3 seriously powerful tools to your JS toolkit: default parameters, REST parameters, and the spread operator. Let's pop open that Swiss Army knife.
And let's not waste any time. Here's the payoff right up front. See that before code on the left? Oh yeah, we've all written that. It feels clunky, like a chore. But the after on the right, that's different. It's not some clever hack. It's clean, it's intentional, and it's built right into the language. Now that is the kind of elegant code we're aiming for. You know, that before code really is the perfect example of a common headache in older JavaScript. We were constantly writing all this extra boilerplate just to ask simple questions like, hey, is this argument even here? Or did the user give me 1 thing or 10 things? It just led to our functions getting all bloated with setup logic, and it distracts from what they're actually supposed to be doing.
So let's tackle that first problem: how to handle missing arguments. Our first tool solves this directly, and it's the magic behind that super clean after code we just saw. So let's meet our first tool, default parameters.
Default parameters are basically a safety net for your functions. They let you set up a fallback value right there in the function definition that just automatically kicks in if an argument is missing or, and this is important, if someone explicitly passes in undefined. What's really cool here is how the intent changes. The old way, using that OR operator, it was a clever trick, but it wasn't perfect. It actually had a bug. If you wanted to pass in the number 0 or maybe an empty string, that old code would mistakenly replace it with guessed. But the modern way, it's not a trick. It's a real feature. It clearly states, hey, this thing has a default, and it works exactly like you'd hope. And this isn't just for simple strings, not at all. This is where it gets really powerful, when you realize you can set defaults for pretty much any data type. Need a fallback number? Easy. Want to make sure a parameter is always an array, even if nothing gets passed in? Just set the default to an empty set of brackets. Same goes for objects. It just makes her function so much more flexible and way more robust. Okay, so default parameters have us covered for missing inputs. That's awesome. But what about that other headache, handling a totally unknown number of inputs? For that, we turn to our second tool, the REST parameter. So when you see those 3 little dots inside a function's parameter list, I want you to think of it like a bucket. It's basically saying, take all the rest of the arguments that somebody passed in, I don't care how many there are, and just gather them up for me into one nice, clean array. This sum function is the perfect example. It literally doesn't care if you give it 2 numbers or 200. That ... numbers syntax does all the heavy lifting, collecting everything into a simple numbers array. So now your function's logic can be super simple. Just work with the array. And you don't have all that messy argument juggling code at the top. Now, there is one golden rule you have to remember. The REST parameter, it's a little greedy. It scoops up everything from its position all the way to the end. And because of that, it absolutely must be the last parameter in your function definition. You can have other named parameters first, like title here, and then ... items will describe whatever is left over. All right, our third tool uses the exact same 3 syntax we just saw, which I know can be a little confusing at first. But here's the twist. It does the complete opposite job. Let's meet the spread operator. If you only remember one thing today to keep these 2 straight, please make it this. REST gathers, spread scatters. REST collects a bunch of arguments into an array. Spread takes one array and, well, it scatters its contents out into many individual items. And because it scatters things, the spread operator is like a Swiss Army knife for working with your data. So let's quickly look at 4 of its most useful attachments: passing arguments, cloning arrays, and merging both arrays and objects. First up, function arguments. You've got some functions, like the built-in math.max, that need individual numbers, not an array of numbers. Spread solves this perfectly. By spreading the array, you're not passing the array itself. You're basically unpacking it on the fly and feeding the function exactly what it wants, just the individual elements. Need a quick copy of an array? This is hands down the cleanest way to do it now. Spreading an array inside a new set of square brackets creates a brand new array holding the same elements. We call this a shallow copy, and it's perfect for when you want to avoid accidentally changing your original data. Merging arrays used to involve weird methods like concat. Anymore, it's so much more readable. You just make a new array, and then you spread the contents of your source arrays into it, one after the other. It's just the cleanest, clearest way to combine arrays in modern JavaScript. And this same logic works beautifully with objects, which, let me tell you, is an absolute game changer for managing things like configuration or application state. You can have a default settings object, then the user's custom settings, and just poof, merge them into a final config with one clean, beautiful expression. But there's a really important detail with spreading objects. Order matters. A lot. As you can see right here, both of our objects had a size property. Because the custom object came last, its size of large overwrote the one from defaults. So remember, the last one in wins. So we've seen all the tools individually. Now let's put it all together. Let's look at a classic real-world scenario to see how this modern JS toolkit really, truly shines. Okay, here's the situation. We've all been here. Your app has a bunch of nice, sensible default settings. You know, a light theme, a standard font size, but you want to let your user provide their own choices. Maybe they prefer dark mode, and those choices need to cleanly override your defaults. So, how do you merge them? And here it is, the beautiful one-line solution using our spread operator. By spreading the default settings first, and then spreading the user settings, we get a brand new object that has all the defaults, but with any matching properties cleanly overwritten by what the user wanted. I mean, come on, this is modern JavaScript at its best. Concise, readable, and incredibly powerful. And that's our upgraded toolkit. If it helps, think of it this way. Use default parameters for safety to stop your code from breaking on missing values. Use REST parameters for flexibility to grab any number of inputs. And use the spread operator for manipulation to elegantly build or break apart your data. So now you have this amazing set of tools for putting data into your functions and structures with awesome flexibility. But what about getting data back out just as cleanly? Your toolkit is upgraded. So are you ready to deconstruct some data with our next explainer on destructuring?